the sparks of treachery. The skies above Andros V burned red. It was supposed to be an ordinary cycle. Farmers harvesting protein grain, children playing under the twin suns, and orbital freighters ferrying supplies between the outer rim colonies. But everything changed in an instant when the clouds parted not for rain, but for fire. Without warning, a fleet of Zarnathi warships emerged from slipspace above a human colony. No diplomatic warning, no declaration, just plasma lances and kinetic rods raining down from the heavens. The orbital defense grid, barely more than ceremonial, was obliterated in seconds. Cities disappeared in light. Millions died without even knowing why. In a hidden underground shelter, a lone technician managed to launch a broadcast drone before the facility collapsed. It shot into space, carrying a final message, beaming through the stars, through interference, past black holes, across the void, all the way to Earth. The message was simple: footage of burning forests, screams, children buried in rubble. The final shot, a smoldering flag of the Terran Union fluttering over shattered ruins. The name of the colony burned into memory. Andros V lost. Earth's media networks stopped in their tracks. Debates ceased. Commercials went black. Social feeds went silent. Within hours, the footage went viral across the Sol system, then across the colonies, then across the stars. Billions of humans watched as the truth unfolded. A sovereign Terran colony, attacked in peacetime by a Galactic Accord member state. The Accord, a coalition of 12 alien empires, claimed no knowledge of the attack. Their spokesbeings cited a rogue fleet. They offered condolences and silence. But Earth was no longer a fractured backwater planet. Not anymore. At the Terran United Command, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the High Council convened. Generals, scientists, politicians, and AI strategists sat in grim silence. At the head of the table stood Fleet Admiral Elias Rourke, a man carved from war, eyes cold, posture rigid, voice steel. He stared at the hollow image of the crater where Andros V's capital once stood. Around him, leaders argued, some calling for restraint, others for diplomacy, a few for retaliation. Rourke raised a hand. Silence. He stepped forward, leaned onto the table, and with a voice that echoed through every satellite, relay station, and capital in the system, he declared, "You want war? We'll bring you a war." He didn't shout. He didn't rage. He spoke like a verdict, final and absolute. The room froze. The AI scribes paused mid-recording. Across Earth and the colonies, that phrase was captured, replayed, memed, translated, etched onto walls, and burned into hearts. In that moment, humanity united. 2 hours later, Earth activated Omega Protocol, a fail-safe plan hidden for decades, designed in secret during the last Galactic Cold War. Most believed it was myth. They were wrong. Shipyards hidden inside asteroids flickered to life. Deep bunkers opened, revealing weapons never tested in public. The Atlas, Leviathan, and Midgard-class dreadnoughts, whispered legends, began final checks. Old rivalries were set aside. Mars, Europa, and the Titan colonies pledged fleets, supplies, and personnel. The Terran Defense Pact was reborn. Young soldiers enlisted by the millions. Engineers volunteered for triple shifts. Civilians donated resources. Hackers breached Accord communications, leaking files that showed knowledge of the attack long before it happened. Earth's fury became organized, focused, terrifying. In orbit, the flagship TSV Dauntless prepared to depart. Admiral Rourke stood on the command bridge, hands clasped behind his back, staring at the blue curve of Earth. His XO approached. "Sir," she said quietly, "the Accord will never admit guilt. Their own members are already fracturing." "They thought we'd kneel," Rourke replied. "They thought we'd break. We'll show them the cost of provoking a race that mastered war before it reached the stars." He turned to face the crew. "This isn't just for Andros V," he said. "It's for every species crushed under their rule, for every voice silenced, for every world exploited." He raised his hand. "Set course for the Icaron expanse. We'll hit their supply line first." "Yes, Admiral." Engines ignited. The Dauntless slipped into hyperspace. Behind it, Earth prepared for the first true interstellar war in its history. The galaxy had made a fatal mistake. It had awakened the wrath of a species that never forgets. Fire in the expanse. The Icaron expanse was a dead zone, a stretch of unclaimed space filled with ancient asteroid fields and derelict stations. To most of the galaxy, it was forgotten. To Admiral Rourke, it was the perfect place to send a message. The Dauntless exited hyperspace in the shadow of a long-dead star. Around it, a small Terran fleet shimmered into view. 3 battlecruisers, 2 corvettes, and a single stealth destroyer. The TNS Whisper, a ghost ship known only to a few in command. The expanse was more than just debris and silence. It was a critical artery for the Accord's eastern trade route. Unmonitored, unprotected, and fatally overlooked. Target acquired. The Whisper's AI chimed into the Dauntless command bridge. Rourke stood at the holodable, his arms folded. A projection showed a convoy of 6 freighters escorted by 2 Zarnathi frigates and 1 Darvik support cruiser, all flying Accord diplomatic flags. The very ones who claimed innocence. "Are we sure?" his XO asked. "That convoy's marked as humanitarian." Rourke's jaw clenched. "Run the Whisper's scan again." The AI magnified one of the freighters. Inside, racks of kinetic warheads, sealed cryopods containing Zarnathi shock troopers, and bioplasma cannons being smuggled under the guise of food supplies. "Humanitarian," Rourke muttered. "Lies." He turned to the crew. "Engage stealth protocols. The Whisper will jam comms. I want that convoy obliterated before they know we're here." The ambush was swift, surgical, and ruthless. The Whisper struck first. A single EMP torpedo shattered the enemy comms grid. Seconds later, Terran railguns opened fire. Kinetic slugs tore through hulls like paper. 1 Zarnathi frigate exploded in a flash of blue plasma. The Darvik cruiser attempted to retreat, but was caught mid-jump by a precision strike from the Dauntless. It took only 92 seconds. The battlefield went silent. In the wreckage, Terra Marines retrieved data cores and captured a few unconscious survivors. Among them was a Darvik officer, an intelligence courier with sealed Accord orders. Back on the Dauntless, the document was decrypted. Rourke stared at the projection in silence. Orders from the Accord High Council, authorizing covert operations against human colonies, dated weeks before Andrus V was attacked. The assault wasn't rogue. It was planned, deliberate, coordinated. The Accord lied. The next strike came from Earth, not a weapon, but a transmission. A system-wide broadcast, routed through over 1,000 relays and amplified by every Terran media outlet, began to play across neutral and Accord space. A single video. Admiral Rourke stood in uniform, stone-faced, behind him the Terran flag and the burning wreckage of the Icaron convoy. His voice was calm, measured, to the Galactic Accord and its member states. "You accused us of aggression while you struck our people. You called it a rogue action while your ships smuggled weapons to our borders. We've uncovered your orders. We have your signatures. This is not a war we wanted, but it is the war you started. From this moment forward, any Accord ship found in Terran space will be treated as hostile. You wanted war. You'll get one." He paused. "We are not prey. We are not primitive. We are humanity, born in the ashes of our own world, tempered by centuries of fire. And now, you will learn what that means." The broadcast ended, and chaos began. In Accord territory, reactions were immediate and volatile. Several member races, particularly the Zolari and the Nerutel, condemned the High Council and withdrew their ships from border space. Protests erupted on core worlds. Civil unrest spread. Rumors of human black ops operatives igniting rebellion among oppressed species grew by the hour. In private chambers on Verithex Prime, the Accord High Council convened. 12 species, 12 seats, 12 arguments. They can't possibly wage war against the Accord, hissed Chancellor Gorin of the Zarnathi. They already have, muttered High Speaker Uthri of the Vekari. And they're winning the narrative. The humans weren't just fighting militarily. They were dismantling the Accord's legitimacy planet by planet, broadcasting truth exposing lies, and gaining sympathy from those long abused by the Council's power. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't just technology. It was belief in justice, in vengeance, and in themselves. Back on the Dauntless, Admiral Rourke stared at a new star chart. One location pulsed red. Velker Station, a heavily fortified Accord depot near the outer rim, considered untouchable. Rourke tapped the map. We hit it next. His officers exchanged uneasy glances. Velker was a fortress, bristling with turrets, orbital mines, and a garrison fleet. Rourke didn't flinch. The Accord thinks we're still playing by their rules. But war, he said quietly, has no rules now. The Dauntless turned its prow toward Velker, and the stars, once again, began to burn. Storming Velker. Velker Station was the pride of the Galactic Accord. Suspended in orbit around a dwarf star, it was a sprawling fortress of metal and light. A ringed titan bristling with weapons, sensors, and elite Accord defense fleets. Inside its chambers, trillions of credits in military tech and strategic command centers kept the balance of power intact across a dozen systems. No one dared attack it. Until now, from the black void beyond the rim, the Terran Vanguard fleet emerged, silent, invisible, and deadly. Admiral Elias Rourke stood on the command deck of the TSV Dauntless, arms behind his back, eyes fixed on the hollow display of Velker. Operation Eclipse had begun. Status? He asked. Stealth systems holding. Enemy hasn't detected us, replied Commander Silva, his XO. Good. Begin jamming their outer beacons. Let's make them blind. Behind the Dauntless, 30 Terran warships shimmered into view. Sleek, angular destroyers, battlecruisers with railgun platforms, and the TSV Vengeance, a prototype stealth carrier built specifically for this mission. Each ship carried Earth's most advanced weaponry, some developed in secret labs hidden even from most Terran citizens. Rourke opened a secure channel. This is not a battle. This is a reckoning, he said to the fleet. Velker is a symbol, a monument to Accord tyranny. Today, we reduce it to debris. The signal cut. Rourke turned to his weapons officer. Fire at will. The assault began with silence. From the Vengeance, a cloud of micro-drones surged forward, unseen by conventional sensors. They slipped past sentry grids and station defenses, infiltrating key systems, power nodes, comm arrays, targeting matrices. Then all at once they struck. Power died across Velker's outer ring. Communications cut. Lights flickered. Defense turrets swiveled aimlessly. The Accord fleet scrambled, but too late. The first railgun volley from the Dauntless tore into the station's eastern flank, sending a shockwave through its inner decks. Terran torpedoes followed, trailing silent blue flames before erupting into plasma storms. Debris scattered. Explosions bloomed in zero-G. Inside Velker, panic set in. The station's command AI stuttered, unable to reboot. Accord officers screamed for orders. The power grid surged and failed. Fighters launched only to be shot down by precision point defense systems before they could form up. The Vanguard fleet advanced. No mercy, no warnings. Rourke paced the bridge, watching the devastation unfold. Target the internal reactor complex, he ordered. Sir, that'll breach the core. There'll be no survivors. I'm aware. Commander Silva hesitated. We have Accord civilians aboard, technicians, non-combatants. Rourke's eyes didn't blink. Andrus V had children. That ended the discussion. The reactor strike came seconds later. A focused burst of graviton-tipped missiles punched deep into the station's heart. Fire bloomed from within as Velker's core destabilized. From a distance, it looked like a flower made of flame blooming in the cold of space. Velker Station, once the Accord's strongest hold, shattered into drifting wreckage. Across the galaxy, the ripple was immediate. Velker wasn't just a military target. It was a symbol of power, of invincibility. And it had fallen. News spread like a virus. Terrans destroy Velker. Human fleet unstoppable. Accord hides truth of colony attacks. Footage leaked from inside the Vanguard fleet showed Rourke's speech, the attack precision, the brutal clarity of the Terran strike. And in those images, species long subjugated by the Accord began to whisper, then shout. The Velker uprising began days later. On 5 Accord-controlled planets, resistance movements exploded into action. Weapons smuggled in by Terran operatives were used to overthrow local governors. Accord garrisons were ambushed, their supplies raided. Rebel banners, and sometimes Terran flags, began flying on alien worlds. Earth's war had become something more. It was becoming a revolution. On the edge of the Sirius sector, in the command chamber of a battered cruiser, Admiral Rourke read the latest report. Systems were falling to uprisings. Accord fleets were pulling back, scattered, uncertain. But he knew better. This won't last, he murmured. They'll retaliate. Sir, Commander Silva said, stepping forward, we've intercepted chatter. The Accord High Council has called for a full-scale counteroffensive. All-out war. Rourke nodded. Let them come. He walked to the viewport and looked out over the scattered remains of Velker. They called us savages, he said. Said we were unevolved. Primitive. Dangerous. He turned, eyes burning with purpose. They were right. The line they shouldn't have crossed. The stars burned red over Cygnar Delta, the last gateway system before Earth. Accord fleets poured in. Heavy cruisers, dreadnoughts, orbital fortresses. Over 100 vessels, pulled from across the galaxy, converged in one final push. Their objective, break humanity's defenses, reach Earth, and force unconditional surrender. It would be the largest space engagement in galactic history. The Accord thought they would crush Terran resistance through sheer force. They didn't understand humans. Admiral Elias Rourke stood aboard the TSV Dauntless, now reinforced, upgraded, and scarred from a dozen battles. Behind him, stretched across the void, were the remains of Earth's outer defense grid. Smart mines, solar lances, cloaked frigates, orbital cannons, and most importantly, the Terran home fleet. We've confirmed visual on the Accord main force, Commander Silva said. ETA, 43 minutes. How many? Rourke asked. Silva took a breath. 132 ships, including 4 dreadnoughts. Rourke nodded. Good, sir. He turned. Let them come. This is where we stop them. From orbit, Earth looked beautiful, blue, scarred, stubborn. Billions watched the skies, civilian eyes fixed on the glowing patterns of war above. Broadcasts flickered across every screen on the planet, showing live feeds of the fleet. Rourke's voice echoed in homes, shelters, and war bunkers. To all Terrans, this is our line. They've come for us with fire and steel, believing we'd kneel. But they forget what Earth is made of. We are forged from hardship, tempered in catastrophe. They want a war. We'll bring them a war, one they'll never forget. The first volley came from the Accord. Plasma arcs, ion flak, anti-ship torpedoes lighting up the void. But humanity had prepared. The defense grid activated in sync. Cloaked frigates decloaked behind enemy lines, tearing through their support ships with railgun fire. Orbital mines exploded among the lead dreadnoughts. Terran fighters danced through the chaos, smaller and faster than anything the Accord had prepared for. And then came the Leviathan Protocol. The TSV Retribution, a secret weapon developed in the Lunar Black Labs, emerged from behind the moon. Over 6 kilometers long, armed with graviton beams and a prototype dark matter cannon. It was the largest human warship ever built. Its first shot sliced through 2 Accord cruisers and cracked the hull of a dreadnought. It didn't stop. The battle became a storm. No flanks, no formation, only fire and fury. Admiral Rourke commanded with ruthless precision, calling in hit-and-run tactics, baiting the enemy into choke points, sacrificing older ships to expose Accord weaknesses. His commands were calm, his timing flawless. But even with their strategy, humanity was outnumbered. The Accord pressed forward. 1 dreadnought pushed through the defensive ring, targeting Earth's orbital communications tower. Commander Silva looked up. They're breaching the perimeter. Rourke's voice was cold. Target the dreadnought. Ram, if necessary. The TSV Iron Soul, already heavily damaged, obeyed. Its captain, an old war veteran named Lien Hart, sent one final message for Earth. The Iron Soul accelerated to full speed and crashed into the Dreadnought's core. Both ships exploded in a blinding burst of fire and debris. Silence followed. Then the Accord line began to falter. They hadn't expected such sacrifice. They hadn't expected Earth to bleed and still fight. One by one, Accord ships began to retreat, captains abandoning the cause, engines burning toward jump points. Some were shot down. Others simply disappeared into the stars, unwilling to continue a war they now doubted. Within the hour, the battlefield was quiet. Wreckage drifted among the stars. Earth still stood. In the aftermath, Rourke walked through the dauntless, scorched observation deck, surrounded by a handful of surviving officers. His uniform was torn, face bruised, but his eyes burned with undimmed fire. A message came in, not from the Accord, from within. Thousands of alien systems, Vekari rebels, oppressed Neratel colonies, even splinter factions within the Accord, had risen in the wake of Earth's stand. They weren't just fighting back. They were demanding something new. A galactic council, not of conquerors, but of equals, led by the only species who had faced death and never blinked. Rourke stood before a broadcast array, patched into every surviving channel across the galaxy. He said only one sentence. "Let the stars remember, we were peaceful until provoked." He paused, but now the galaxy is awake. Back on Earth, a small child looked up into the night sky, still glowing with trails of fading plasma and distant fires. His mother knelt beside him. "What are you looking for?" He pointed upward. "The humans." She smiled. "We are the humans." "No," he whispered. "The ones who made them afraid."